Welcome to Getting Started with Storage. This foundational level course is written for people who are beginning with cloud computing and AWS services. Before you begin this course, it will be helpful if you have a basic understanding of cloud computing concepts and of the AWS Management Console. If you have more knowledge or experience with cloud computing, this course will still be helpful in refreshing your knowledge and practicing your skills. This course is complemented by a series of Getting Started courses that teach other core domains and help you build a foundation in cloud computing. This module was designed to introduce you to the storage domain and AWS core storage services. It is broken into 4 sections. The first section is an introduction to the storage domain. You will learn about storage basics, types of storage, and when to use different types of storage. In the second section, Introduction to Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3, you will have an introduction to the key concepts of Amazon S3. In the third section, Using Amazon S3, you will learn how to launch, configure, and manage storage with Amazon S3. The final section, Additional AWS Storage Services, will give you a high-level overview of 2 additional storage services for AWS. Choose the icons to review each section. Computers use data to complete tasks, and this data must be stored to be accessed. Some data can be stored internal to the computer itself, such as files that help the computer start up and run. More data can be stored on servers to be accessed by your computer. When data is on a server in the cloud, people all around the world can access it. There are different types of storage for different applications. In this section, you will learn about storage types and applications. Choose Continue to get started. Before you learn about the types of cloud storage, it's important to understand the difference between on-premises storage and cloud storage. On-premises storage means that your server is hosted within your organization's infrastructure and might be physically on-site. Your company controls, administers, and maintains the server. Data and other information are shared between computers through your local network. With cloud storage, an outside service provider like AWS hosts your data. The cloud provider procures, installs, and maintains all hardware, software, and other supporting infrastructure in its data centers. You access these services and manage your account through the internet. Cloud storage has many benefits. It is cost-efficient, so you pay only for what you use. It is secure because data is saved across multiple servers. It is accessible to multiple users in an account. It is scalable so it can grow and shrink as your workloads change. It is managed so you don't have to worry about servers and you can focus on your data and applications. It is backed up so copies of data are stored in different physical locations in case of failure. Storage comes in 3 basic types: block storage, file storage, and object storage. These types of storage each have a particular use, and it's likely that you will work with all 3 types. Choose the storage type buttons to learn more. How do you choose between the storage types when starting a project? First, you must define your requirements. You must think about the workload requirements, security constraints, and performance expectations. Second, you must review the options for storage, which include block, file, and object. Depending on your workload, you might need more than one type of storage. Third, you can design your storage strategy by choosing a storage service and selecting the features you want to deploy. As soon as the requirements are defined, you can configure and deploy your storage solution. Now that you understand the types of storage and the decisions around choosing a storage solution, take a look at some use cases. They should give you some ideas for how to solve storage problems that you might face. Choose each file drawer to see the different case types. Choose the files to read about block storage use cases. Choose the files to read about object storage use cases. AWS has storage services for each of the types of storage and use cases. This course will introduce you to 3 AWS core storage services: Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon Elastic File System, and Amazon Simple Storage Service. Choose the tabs to learn more about AWS core storage services. In this section, you have learned the basics of storage, the foundation for AWS storage services knowledge and skills. Review the key takeaways from this section and additional resources to further your learning. Next up is Introduction to Amazon S3. In this section, you will be introduced to Amazon S3, an object-level storage service. Amazon S3 stores objects inside buckets within the region of your choice. Objects are then used in your applications or business operations. Choose Continue to get started. Now that you have a foundation of storage basics, it's time to introduce you to one of Amazon's core storage services, Amazon Simple Storage Service, or Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is an object storage service that you can use to collect, store, and analyze data in any amount from anywhere in the world. Amazon S3 is available to businesses of all sizes and in any industry for a range of use cases. Common use cases include data lakes for storing large amounts of data, file storage for static website hosting, backups of data for use in disaster recovery, and an archive for data that isn't actively used but should be saved for the future. Amazon S3 offers high levels of scalability, data durability and availability, performance, and security. Let's take a deeper look at these benefits. You'll recall that one benefit of cloud computing is that you don't have to predict future needs today. Amazon S3 is designed to grow with you as a fully scalable service. You pay only for what you use, meaning that as your storage needs scale up or down, you don't have to try and predict and right-size capacity up front. In addition, Amazon S3 offers a range of storage classes to choose from based off of the data access, resiliency, and cost requirements of your workload. Amazon S3 storage classes are purpose-built to provide a choice of durability, availability, and cost. Using the Amazon S3 automated lifecycle rules, you can switch between classes to suit your needs. Durability is the measure of the average annual expected loss of objects. All Amazon S3 storage classes provide 11 nines of data durability for objects over a given year. Therefore, if you store 10 million objects in Amazon S3 and you choose never to have it automatically backed up, you should expect to lose a single object once every 10,000 years. Availability is the amount of time per year that an object stored in Amazon S3 is available for retrieval. All Amazon S3 storage classes have better than 99.9% availability. This means that no matter what storage calls you use, you will have access to your files whenever you need them with almost no downtime. Most applications use code to interact with Amazon S3 through our APIs. So the configurable retry and exponential backoff features built into our software development kits mean that even if there's an availability glitch, the SDK will try until it is available. When you provision Amazon S3, you choose the region or regions where you want to store your data. If you upload files to Amazon S3, your objects are automatically replicated across a minimum of 3 availability zones. Each of these availability zones is strategically separated physically and employs dedicated ultra-low latency connections. So if there's a failure in one availability zone, your file exists and is available in another availability zone in the same region. This architecture provides you with high levels of durability and availability. Amazon S3 has robust features to help you protect and manage your storage files. You can use Amazon S3 to back up your data and restore it in the event of a disaster. You can provision Amazon S3 to replicate all of your data in one region to another region. If a failure were to occur in one region, you still have all your data files in the other region. Amazon S3 has other security and compliance features as well. It offers 3 different forms of encryption to protect stored files. It also provides sophisticated integration with other AWS security services such as AWS CloudTrail for auditing and Amazon Macie for helping to protect sensitive data. To help you meet your compliance requirements, Amazon S3 supports most security standards and holds various compliance certifications. For example, you can use S3 Object Lock to prevent an object from being overwritten for a specific period of time. To understand what data you have and make management decisions about that data, Amazon S3 gives you flexible storage management and administrative capabilities. These capabilities include mechanisms to keep costs low and the ability to classify, report, tag, and analyze data. We've covered the main uses and benefits of Amazon S3 in this brief introduction. Next, you'll learn about core concepts and how to use Amazon S3 to store and retrieve files. To start, let's review the basic workflow for Amazon S3. First, you move your data into Amazon S3. Amazon S3 accepts data of all file types. Although there's no limit to the amount of data that can be stored, individual objects must be less than 5 terabytes. The data is stored as objects in an S3 bucket. Each object has a unique identifier. Using the unique identifier, you can use the objects in applications or to analyze data. The files or objects that you upload to Amazon S3 consist of data and metadata. The metadata consists of information about the data, such as content type, last modified date, and more. In addition to the data and metadata, an object's key serves as a unique identifier. S3 buckets are created inside a region. Objects are stored inside a bucket, which is similar to a directory or folder in your computer. When you store an object in a bucket, the combination of a bucket name, key, and version ID uniquely identifies the object so that you can interact with that object. Object storage can be classified by how often you must access your data. The 2 broad categories are active storage and archive storage. Active storage is for data that you use all the time. It also includes data that you access less frequently, but it is important that the data can be accessed quickly. Examples are files for static websites or backups. Archive storage is for data that you rarely access but must be maintained. Examples could include data for compliance or business continuity operations. Amazon S3 storage has several storage classes, which we will review next. Amazon S3 storage classes support virtually every storage use case, from backup and recovery to archive and digital preservation to data lakes, business-critical applications, and analytics. Storage classes are based on the data access, resiliency, and cost requirements of your workloads. Choose each bucket to learn about the Amazon S3 storage class. Amazon S3 Standard is for your most active data. It is the default storage class. It is used for general-purpose storage, such as websites and content distribution. S3 Standard is cost-effective for frequently accessed data. Amazon S3 Standard Infrequent Access is for data that is accessed less frequently, but the data must be highly available upon request. Amazon S3 One Zone Infrequent Access is for data that is accessed less frequently and can be readily recreated if lost. S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval is used for archiving data that can be retrieved in a few hours. With expedited retrieval, you can retrieve data in 1 to 5 minutes. Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive is for archiving data that is not accessed often. If you must retrieve the data, the default retrieval time is 12 hours. If you don't know your data access patterns, or if it's unpredictable, you should use Amazon S3 Intelligent Tiering. It will automatically save on storage costs without operational overhead or impacts to performance. Amazon S3 storage classes have different use cases that you should be familiar with. Choose the Amazon S3 storage class icon to review use cases for that storage class. Now you try it. You will review 3 use cases and select the storage class that you would use for optimal performance and cost effectiveness. Amazon S3 has transparent pricing like all AWS services. You pay for storing objects in your S3 buckets. The rate you're charged depends on your object size, how long you stored the objects during the month, and the storage class. You also pay for requests that are made against your S3 buckets and objects. Amazon S3 request costs are based on the request type and are charged on the quantity of requests. In this section, you have learned the basics of Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is an object storage service. Review the key takeaways from this section and additional resources to further your learning. Next up is using Amazon S3. Now that you're familiar with the basics of Amazon S3, you will learn how to use the service. In this section, you will walk through the basic steps to create and configure a bucket, upload objects, and manage the service. Then you will learn how to configure and work with your bucket and objects. Choose Continue to get started. The first step to create a bucket is to give the bucket a name. The name that you assign to your bucket must be globally unique, even though the bucket is created inside a region. Bucket names can be 3 to 63 characters and must include only lowercase letters, numbers, dots, and hyphens. Bucket names must begin and end with a letter or number. When you store an object in a bucket, the combination of a bucket name, key, and version ID uniquely identifies the object. For example, if you store an object called myphotos.zip in a bucket called photobucket, the URL would be as follows: photobucket.s3.amazonaws.com 2021-0413 myphotos.zip. The key is 2021-04-13/myphotos.zip. You use this unique URL to reference objects within the bucket. After giving the bucket a name, you can make a series of configurations. If you leave all the defaults, the bucket will be secure and accessible by only you. First, you choose a region for the bucket. The region will default to the region that's currently selected for your AWS account. Choose a region close to you to minimize latency and costs. You can control who has access to your bucket and your objects by setting ownership and access controls. Object ownership is controlled by access control lists, ACLs. ACLs control who can specify access to objects in your bucket and whether other AWS accounts can write to and use the objects. The default is to have access control lists turned off. Public access allows people and applications outside your AWS account to view and use your objects. This access will be needed when you are hosting a static website, but usually you'll want to keep your objects private. You have multiple controls for blocking and granting public access. The default is no public access. The default settings keep your bucket and objects private and owned only by you. This strategy will keep your bucket the most secure. Versioning gives you the ability to keep multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. You can use versioning to preserve, retrieve, and restore every version of every object stored in your S3 bucket. With versioning, you can recover from both unintended user actions and application failures. The versioning state applies to all of the objects in that bucket. When you enable versioning in a bucket, all new objects are versioned and given a unique version ID. Objects that already existed in the bucket at the time versioning is enabled will thereafter always be versioned. They will be given a unique version ID when they are modified by future requests. Versioning is disabled by default and can be enabled later. You can enable and suspend versioning at the bucket level. After you version enable a bucket, you can never return to an unversioned state, but you can suspend versioning on that bucket. You can add tags to your bucket to track your storage costs or criteria for individual projects. The tag key is the name of the tag and must be unique. The tag value is optional and does not need to be unique. For example, in the tag project/alpha, project is the key and alpha is the value. Another tag could be cost center/alpha. You can add tags to a bucket from the properties page at any point. After you have configured your bucket, choose Create Bucket, and your bucket will be created. Now you can upload objects to the bucket. Choose the Upload button or drag and drop objects into the bucket. Recall that Amazon S3 will store an unlimited amount of data per bucket, but single objects can be no larger than 5 terabytes. Object size also has limits for objects that are uploaded using the console. Objects are limited to 160 gigabytes. You can upload larger objects by using the Command Line Interface, or CLI. You will receive a notification with the status of the upload so you can retry any items that failed to load. When you upload objects, you can choose the storage class for the objects that are part of the upload. The default class is S3 Standard. After the upload, you will see the storage class of each object in the console. You can change the storage class of objects at any time by choosing the objects and then choosing Edit Storage Class from the Actions menu. This menu gives the list of storage classes to choose from. You can use multi-part upload to upload a single object as a set of parts. Each part is a continuous portion of the object's data. You can upload these object parts independently and in any order. If transmission of any part fails, you can retransmit that part without affecting other parts. After all parts of your object are uploaded, Amazon S3 assembles these parts and creates the object. Consider using multi-part upload when you have objects with a size over 100 megabytes. As soon as your objects are uploaded, you can work with them. You can copy an object for the following reasons: to create additional copies of objects, to rename objects by copying them and deleting the original ones, to move objects across Amazon S3 locations, to change object metadata. You can create a copy of your object by choosing the object and then choosing Copy from the Actions menu. To reference an object in a bucket, you can copy the URL of the object. Recall that the URL is the unique identifier for the object. You can download individual objects in the console by choosing the object and then choosing Download. Because all objects in your S3 bucket incur storage costs, you should delete objects that you no longer need. You can delete objects from the console by choosing the object and then choosing Delete. In a bucket with S3 versioning enabled, you can protect your objects from accidental or malicious deletion by enabling multi-factor authentication, or MFA, delete. MFA delete requires two forms of authentication to change a bucket versioning state or permanently delete an object version. The following are the two forms of authentication: your security credentials, and a valid serial number, a space, and the 6-digit code displayed on an approved authentication device. Amazon S3 has additional features to consider. This module will review lifecycle rules, replication rules, and security. An Amazon S3 lifecycle is a set of rules that define actions that Amazon S3 applies to a group of objects. There are two types of actions. Transition actions define when objects transition from one storage class to another. Expiration actions define when objects expire and are deleted. In this example, the object transitions to the S3 standard IA storage class 30 days after creation. After another 30 days, the object transitions to S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval. At the end of a year of storage in S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval, the object is expired and deleted. Using lifecycle rules helps to manage your objects so they are stored cost-effectively through their lifecycle. Replication offers automatic copying of objects across S3 buckets. You can set up replication rules to replicate objects to the following: your AWS account, another AWS account, a single bucket, multiple buckets, within the same region, or into a different region. Using replication can help you to efficiently maintain copies of objects in multiple regions, in different storage classes, and under different ownership. You can create replication rules from the console by selecting the Management tab inside your bucket. When considering replication, you must decide whether you want to replicate objects within the same region or across regions. Both strategies have benefits, and you should base your decisions on the constraints of your workload and business needs. Choose the buttons to learn more about replication. Cloud security at AWS is the highest priority. Security is a shared responsibility between AWS and you. As the customer, you're responsible for security in the cloud as outlined by the shared responsibility model. Amazon S3 default settings create a bucket that is secure. However, as you upload and work with objects, you might want to employ other security features. This module will review the following: AWS Identity and Access Management IAM policies, bucket policies, bucket encryption. By default, all Amazon S3 resources are private. Only you can access the resource. You can optionally grant access permissions to others by writing an IAM access policy. You can grant users, groups, and roles controlled access to Amazon S3 and your objects. For example, you can use an IAM role to grant access to your S3 bucket. Application A has an IAM policy attached to grant access to your bucket. Application B does not have an IAM policy, so it is denied access. Another way to grant access to an S3 bucket is to use a bucket policy. This policy is attached to the bucket and can grant other AWS accounts or users access to the objects that are stored within the bucket. You can specify the types of access within the policies. Policies are written in JSON. You can protect your data while in transit and while at rest by using different types of encryption. When you upload and download objects, you can protect your data by using client-side encryption. Data is encrypted before you upload it, and you hold all the encryption keys. Amazon S3 does not play a role in encrypting or decrypting the data. You can also protect your Amazon S3 data at rest with client-side encryption. You can also use server-side encryption. Amazon S3 encrypts data on the object level when you upload it. When you download the object, Amazon S3 decrypts the data. Now that everything is set up, you can begin moving data into Amazon S3 in larger chunks. AWS has service features and a family of services to assist in migrating large amounts of data. These features and services include the following: S3 Transfer Acceleration, AWS Snow Cone, AWS Snowball, AWS Snowmobile. Choose the tabs to read about AWS data migration services. In this section, you've learned about how to use Amazon S3. Review the key takeaways from this section and additional resources to further your learning. Next up, you will learn about additional AWS storage services. Now that you're familiar with Amazon S3 for object storage, it's time to dive into the AWS storage services for block storage and file storage. In this section, you'll review the storage types and be introduced to Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, and Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS. Choose Continue to get started. Recall that block storage is data that is stored on a device in fixed-sized blocks. AWS has two block storage solutions. The first type of block storage is an Amazon EC2 instance store, which is a temporary block-level storage for your EC2 instance. This storage consists of a pre-configured and pre-attached block of disk storage on the same physical server that hosts the EC2 instance. It is temporary because the storage data is lost when you stop or terminate your EC2 instance. The second type of block storage is Amazon EBS, a detachable storage associated with an availability zone. If you stop or terminate your EC2 instance, your data is still available in the EBS volume. You can detach it from the instance that you are terminating and reattach it to another instance. Amazon EBS is a durable block-level storage device that was designed for Amazon EC2. EBS volumes provide 6 key features and benefits: data availability, data persistence, data encryption, data security, snapshots, flexibility. Choose the tabs to read about the key features and benefits of Amazon EBS. The two main categories for EBS volume types are solid-state drives, SSD, and hard disk drives, HDD. SSDs are used for transactional workloads with frequent read-write operations and small input-output I/O size for faster I/O operations per second, or IOPS. Choose from general-purpose SSD and provisioned IOPS SSD. HDDs are used for large streaming workloads that need high throughput performance. Choose between throughput-optimized HDD and cold HDD. The type of storage volume that you choose is influenced by the type of workloads that you have. Review the use cases for EBS volume types. Recall that file storage helps users, applications, and services access data in a shared file system. It is similar to a centralized shared network drive in a company where employees store and access files. Amazon EFS is a scalable file system that's used with AWS cloud services and on-premises resources. Amazon EFS supports thousands of connections from EC2 instances across multiple availability zones. On-premises servers can access Amazon EFS through AWS Direct Connect. Amazon EFS storage is permanent. When attached to an AWS compute instance, data will not disappear when the instance is relaunched. You can use Amazon EFS to access your file system across availability zones, AWS regions, and virtual private clouds, VPCs. Files can be shared between thousands of EC2 instances and on-premises servers. Amazon EFS provides 4 key features and benefits: fully managed, highly available and durable, elastic and scalable, and data encryption. Choose the tabs to read about the key features and benefits of Amazon EFS. You can use Amazon EFS for a wide variety of use cases, including the following: content management, media processing workflows, shared and home directories, database backups, developer and application tools, big data analytics. In this section, you've learned about other AWS storage services and their uses. Review the key takeaways from this section and additional resources to further your learning. Let's review what you've covered during this module. In the first section, you got an introduction to storage. This introduction included storage basics, types of storage, when to use different types of storage, and storage use cases. In the second section, you were introduced to Amazon S3. This section included an overview of the key concepts of Amazon S3, storage classes, and storage class use cases. In the third section, you learned how to use Amazon S3 to create, configure, and manage storage with Amazon S3. You also learned about additional settings for security and data management. In the final section, you learned about the additional AWS storage services for block storage and file storage. The Getting Started series will help you build your foundational knowledge. Here is the suggested order for taking the courses in this series.